traditional activities, like bird singing and language maybe? Like what are the benefits to people?
To me, the language, I could speak on the language part. To me, it's knowing who you are, knowing where you came from, you know. And I mean, the language, to me, is who I am. You know, that's me, is my language. Without the language, you're lost. You know, you just, like, I don't know how else to say it, but to say that you're just lost. You don't know who you are. You don't know your language, you know. Back in the day, they used to say you could tell, you know, we had mountain Cahuilla, past Cahuilla, desert Cahuilla. And just by them talking or speaking, they would know, oh, they're from the mountains or they're from the pass. Their dialects were a little bit different, you know. Well, the pass, I think maybe were more kind of different from the desert and the mountain, because I can pretty much pick up some of the mountain Cahuilla language. It's almost the same, but they just like chop them short, like for instance, like that. Miahuen, we say Miahuen, and they say Miawa, you know, stuff like that. But other than that, they're pretty much similar. So I think your language is what identifies you. And from just like speaking with Robert, like he said, how the bird songs are getting all mixed up. I believe back then, back in the day, the bird songs probably identified where you came from too, you know, by singing, you know, that you know your desert Cahuilla, mountain Cahuilla, you know, they're, you know, even though they're similar, but still, you're just telling your story, you know. That's why I would assume that the bird singing would be beneficial for the children to know, and even in their dancing, like the Arizona ladies dance differently from here, the desert. So by their dancing, you'll know where they're from, you know. That identifies them also. So that I think is a benefit to the young people, to know who they are by their dancing, their singing, their language, the way they speak. That's what I think would benefit, you know, them, to know who they are and where they come from. You know, that's the way I see, you know, when you hear that a lot, know who you are and where you come from. But without your language, how are you going to know? You know.
And I know that that you teach language.
Yes.
So the question I had were, what are some of the things that you do to help support cultural preservation? And I think that the language is probably the main thing.
The number one thing.
Can you tell us about how you started teaching the language and, you know, what that means to you?
Well, I never really thought about that at first, but as I was learning the language, and then others would come up and ask me, you know, how I started speaking. I was born into the language. I was raised by them. That's all that was spoken in the home. You know, even with my aunts, my cousins, everyone's uncles, we all spoke. That was just the way our life was, speaking the language. But then when I went to school, now that's what I tell my daughter and my kids, you know, that the school was kind of like something I really didn't care about or even really think about, because there would I can't say it was really bad, they beat you and whatever, but what they done to me was like an embarrassment. Now that I look back, because my teacher took me in front of the classroom and wanted me to speak English, and how could I speak it when I didn't know it, you know? And then she sat me in the front, and I keep trying to say, it seems like she put something on my head, but maybe that's my own imaginations, being, you know, like I see movies or something, you know, how they have that dunce thing. I said, maybe that's what she did to me or something. But she made me sit in front of the class facing the students.
Try to humiliate you, sir?
I guess so, but then I guess as I was growing up, I thought, they're not going to, they're not going to break me. They're not going to take my language from me. And I see my other friends or the ones that I grew up with, they spoke English and everything, and a lot of them, even when we got to like 4th, 5th, 6th grade, they would say they were Mexicans. They didn't want to be Indians. And I would think, why? That's who we are. We should be proud of who we are. But then, yeah, they made fun of you and stuff, and, like going, ooh, and stuff like that when they see you coming and stuff like that. But I don't know. It hurt me. I guess maybe being hurt so bad as a younger student or in the younger grades, I was kind of getting like hardened, I guess you could say. And I thought, oh, I'll teach my language. I want to keep my language. And I guess maybe that was one thing that just in the back of my mind, I wanted to continue. I wanted everybody to know the language, not to let it be forgotten. But the only mistake I feel that I made, and I regret it, because my husband was a fluent speaker also, but our #1 language in the home was English. So my kids picked up English more than the language. They know a little bit like numbers and, a few words here and there that catch, that sometimes my husband and I wouldn't want them to know where we were going or what we did. But they'd know, they'd say, I know how much you have. You said, they know the numbers. So, but, I wish we could have done more and just spoke the language only like I was raised up with. So, but the only thing with him and I was there was a few words that were different. Sometimes he'd make fun of me or tease me because of the way I'd say it, and then I'd tease him because he didn't know how to count. I'd tell him. But that's just that. I grew up with that also. My dad, his words were a little different from my mom's. His was more, now that I look at it, more like borrowed words, like sugar. My mom would say pisi. My dad would say asokri. And let me see, there was some others too. Tea. My mom would say cha. My dad would say te. That was the big joke in the house all the time. We couldn't say cha to him. He'd say cha, niho, cha. He'd try to get us to say it the way he would say it, I guess. But it was all in fun and everything. I could say we were close as a family back then, happy. It didn't seem like my parents ever worried about bills. They weren't into politics. It seems like we were just there. We were just one big family that were together, close. We didn't have a TV, so we'd just, sit around the table. They'd be talking and laughing and everything. I don't know what they were talking about, but they looked happy to me. And there was always plenty of food to feed everyone. I mean, our home was open, seemed like to my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, everyone. But it was fun. I have good memories of it. We never, ever went hungry. I never knew what hunger was back then. We always had something. So.
And that's something to say. Everybody pulled together.
Yes.
Together to make that happen.
Yes, they did.
It sounds like they made it pretty magical for you in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Or you could have those happy memories and look back and everything seemed like
yeah,
it was really
the home was happy memories. The school was something else.
What school did you go to?
I went to Mecca.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where I started, was at Mecca.
Okay.
But when we'd moved to Morongo, I went to school there. It was somewhat different because there was more native children there at that time that were from Morongo. even though I didn't speak English, they'd include me. You know, they'd grab me by the hand and take me with them to go play, or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how we communicated, but they involved me to play with them and stuff like that.
No, children find a way.
I
Somehow. So let me see. So are there any things that you'd like to share with us? I mean, we really are thankful that you came to speak with us today.
But you know, there was a question that we're asking everybody.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and jump to that
Time
one.
capsule?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's basically what you want to tell somebody in the future, in 20 years from now, when your granddaughter over here is older. What would you want them to know now?
I would like for them to know the language. And this is my hope and my dream. I've shared it with my daughter and my son, Christopher, that I'd like to start meeting with them, getting all my grandchildren, you know, teaching them the language. Even them, even my sons and my daughter, they know, like I said, they know some, they understand it, but I would like them to be speaking it fluently. And let them, if they have to be the teachers, to continue with it, to carry it on, not to forget the language. Because the language is who they are, you know, identifies them.